Welcome back to the Business Casual Podcast. Today's guest is Diane Iskander. So as a co-founder of the Lending Suite, Diana has 17 years of experience in the mortgage industry. Diana utilizes her tenacity and creativity combined with her access to major banks, B lenders, and private lenders to find solutions for challenging clients' situations. Diana placed a very high importance on relationship building and pride on creating meaningful connections with her clients and referral sources. Diana is known as a reliable and resourceful amongst her peers and colleagues and is proud that 99% of her business is channeled from referrals, making her a consistent top producer.
So welcome to the podcast, Diana.
Thank
and
you.
Being in it for 17 years. Kind of start from the start, like what made you want to get into the mortgage industry? Like you started at such a young age. So what kind of influenced you to get into this business?
So my sister's been in the industry. She started about 10 years before I did. And when I was going to school and doing my internships and things like that, I would just kind of help her on the side. I really got a good idea of what that looks like, what it takes to build a successful business. So I did learn a lot from her. Fresh from school, I was working at ad agencies in graphic design, and I just realized it wasn't really a life that I could live traveling downtown, the commuting, the super long hours, and being that far away from home every day. That's kind of one of the reasons why I started as early as I did.
Nice.
So,
and you specialize in Durham Region?
Yeah, been in Durham Region forever. Our business does kind of take us everywhere, so we can do mortgages anywhere in Ontario, and sometimes with certain provinces too, we can hold some licensing. But the majority of my business, I would say, is in the Durham region.
So going back, I guess, so you work at RBC and CIBC. What kind of drew you, because it's kind of the same, I guess, idea that me, Paul, Travis started with this brokerage, right? It's like we were working under a certain umbrella. We saw some things that we agreed with, didn't agree with, and decided, okay, like, look, we're going to kind of open up our own shop. So what made you and your sister kind of come to that conclusion of like, hey, like, you know what? Why not do our own thing?
When you're working for the major banks, you're working for such a big corporation, you're really limited to what you can do, what you can say, how you can say it. That in and itself, we felt was kind of holding us back a little bit. And then at the end of the day, when policies change with one particular lender, then for us, it was changing, and then I didn't have another option. Let's say if the bank that I was with pulled their investor program, well, then I had to say goodbye to all my investor clients because I couldn't say yes to them anymore, and I couldn't underwrite, like get their files underwritten. So we just wanted to be able to say yes more often and be able to find people more options, be able to shop around, whether it's rate or whether it's just certain programs, different types of lenders in different areas and things like that. So it was really important to us, especially at that point in our career, that we had to be able to hang on to all those clients that we built over so long. We wanted to still be able to retain them and then offer them the service of being able to still do their mortgages.
So you've been with a bank for so long. There's obviously a lot of protection and a lot of
it's scary
stability,
leaving.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, we're in real estate, you're in mortgages, and being the Business Casual Podcast, we want to get out there to kind of all businesses and people that might be on the sidelines working for the man and trying to start their own thing. When was it for you that was like, okay, I think it's time? Because I think that's great advice for
me, honestly, it was when I had my second. I was working from home a lot, and it was a half maternity leave because you can't really take a full year off in this career. So I was spending a lot of time at home with my daughter. I had my min, and she was coming to my house every day, and we were working so much. But I was just finding that, again, the demand of what the bank had required of me versus the return at that point in time, it just wasn't making sense because I wasn't building anything for myself, right? It was just building something and passing it off to the bank. I wasn't going to be able to retain those clients into my retirement. So I was just finding it was a lot of busy work, and it was more just to keep the bank happy versus like kind of keeping myself and building wealth and longevity in my business.
I mean, it's kind of the same idea with real estate. You work for yourself, you have a lot more control of your life, but you're also building something selfishly for yourself. You know, when you're working for a bank or another brokerage or whatever it may be, there's always somebody above you that's kind of reaping the rewards. If you put the time in, you get the reward down the road. I mean, anybody who's an entrepreneur is going to start their own business. It's not an overnight thing. Coming from where you were before, I don't know if you were allowed to, like, were you allowed to bring your book with you to Lending Suite? That wasn't even an option?
Because of the privacy policy of the bank. When I left that day, day, you're just like...
Really? So
Because we
your
weren't allowed to
clients.
keep a database. There was no databases that you can kind of keep. No CRM, so like no contact management programs. When I was there, you're inputting the applications and then those go into like the bank systems. You don't get to see them again. So you do walk away from a lot, and that was the scary thing, was walking away. I really like long time of building a business and past client, but the nice thing is that they end up calling you sometimes, right?
Once their mortgage is
yeah,
up,
when
or
their mortgage is
term
up for renewal, or they're looking to move again, then they find you, because my cell phone number is still the same, right? It's just my email address that's changed.
That's kind of the same idea with people are thinking in the way of like, it really matters who I work for, what brokerage, but people don't care who you work for. I'm sure there's probably been not one client that you've helped with that goes, wait a minute, who do you work for again?
Yeah.
Right? It's like, how nice of a person are you? How much do you know? What can you do for me? Same thing with opening up Rebel. It was, we were leaving a big name brokerage coming here to starting a boutique. It's kind of going back to what Paul was saying about the podcast. If you're somebody that's starting your own business, I think the old ways of the big name of who you are under that umbrella, it doesn't matter as much now because of the way the world is with social media. You have those platforms to market yourself versus marketing a different brand. And like for you with Lending Suite, obviously I've seen you guys on social media and like you do those videos and all that, and like those are really, really well done. Out of all of the lending institutions outside of major banks, you guys, to me at least, that I've seen, are the only ones who are really creating that image around what you do, because you're not just people who push paper for somebody, but you do a good job, you get consistent referrals, and there's a reason for that. For what you guys are doing, you're kind of separating yourself from other lending institutions, right?
And that's the thing too, is like when you're not allowed to be on social media. Back then when I was there, you couldn't advertise, you couldn't post a lot and things like that. So we wanted to be able to have the freedom so people could see who we are and kind of some of the back end stuff and build a brand that people would like and things like that. And I know a lot of mortgage brokers, I find a lot of us don't post a lot, maybe not as much as realtors do. And maybe just because the job isn't as sexy. We don't get to go see like cool houses and things like that. A lot of it is just us sitting behind a desk.
But I think that's like Kyle and you were saying, right? You start to learn quickly. It's not about who you're working for, or it's about you as a person and what you can do for your clients. And kind of shifting gears a bit, your business is very aligned with the real estate industry, obviously. And we're obviously giving advice to our clients and when to buy, what the market's doing. What would be the best advice for first-time buyers?
I've said this no matter what the market looks like. If you're looking for a home for shelter, don't try to time the market. Sometimes in markets you can't save as fast as the market is growing. There's so many moving parts. So it's just buy when it's right for you. And when you're ready to make that next step into home ownership, don't try to time out the rates, because we never know what exactly is going to happen. There's always some indication of where it's headed. But again, the rates, that's just a short-term commitment versus just taking a look at pricing. Your personal circumstances is the most important thing to consider when it's time to get into home ownership.
That's obviously extremely good advice. And the one question that I've, with people who are getting into the market, whether you've bought before or is your first time home buying, is I run into it a lot where people are saying they're going to get pre-approved, right? They go get pre-approved and you guys do all the credit checks, you pull, you do all that stuff. And they do it just because they want to know exactly what they can afford. And then you have that 90 to 120 day window. So for people who are thinking of buying, once you get pre-approved and you lock in at that rate is held for you for that 90 to 120 day period. So you have to purchase and close within that 90 to 120 days to hold that. If you do not, the new rate, whatever that may be, if it's higher, you're now subject to basically a new pre-approval based on those numbers. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you find a lot of people, I guess, get pre-approved and then you don't hear from them for 90 to 120 days?
Oh yeah.
Yeah?
A lot.
What do you think is the biggest driver for that? Like, do you think people are more just curious, or are they just more window shopping at that point?
Could be a combination, because some people we actually talk to like a whole year out, because then we help them like set up their plan, like, okay, this is what you need to do, or things like that. But the people who are 90 to 120 days, it appears as if they're ready. It could come down to they haven't found anything that they like, or sometimes they're just apprehensive about actually wanting to do it. Like, when you go shopping and you are ready to shop and then you can't find anything, but then when you're not looking for something, then you find it. Like, it's almost a little bit of a mind game where it's like, oh my God, I actually am ready, and they might get a little bit shy to do anything about it. But we do, like, I would say we end up doing quite a bit of pre-approvals in a week. I would say only about 10% of them actually become active applications, and it's not because we lose them. It's just people are like, oh, I haven't done anything yet.
Obviously, in the last few years, the real estate industry, the mortgage rates, Bank of Canada raising the rates, there's been so much media behind real estate estate and interest rates. I guess what we have you here to clear up some myths with the mortgage rates, with the real estate market, because we're doing that daily, fighting the media, like what they're telling people to what's actually going on in their markets day to day. So what would you say some mortgage myths are?
The biggest misconception is in the market that we're seeing so this spring is that it's unaffordable to own because of the rates. Where the rates are right now is not anything that's we haven't seen before and that we didn't used to consider just a standard regular interest rate in the mid fives. Another thing that people have to consider is so the prices have gone down and the rates have gone up a little bit, but it's actually cheaper monthly when we do the math and we break it down to own today than it was like in the chaos of 2021 where people were literally crawling over each other to put in an offer on a house. And it was okay back then when the houses were more expensive and it was costing you more to carry it, but now there's this fear because of the interest rates. And I think another thing that people need to consider is that the interest rate isn't permanent. It's only for your term, but the price of your house is permanent. So if you're okay spending $1 million on a house 2 years ago and paying 2% interest, that's great. But now it's that same house for maybe say $800,000. Your interest rate could be around the early fives, but it's still cheaper. And then when you come up for renewal, you owe less money. It's kind of cheesy, but you say like you date the rate and you marry the house. I think that's like a really big myth, and a lot of people, maybe going back to your question, why are people waiting? I think maybe fear is playing like a really big factor, and people just waiting to see what's going to happen. What's going to happen with the interest rate? What's going to happen with prime? And I think that's the other thing. Prime rate is scaring a lot of people because it has gone up. We might be seeing another increase coming this month, but it doesn't really affect you if you're not in a variable.
So like somebody in a good credit rating situation, what would be, should I be asking this question? Maybe it's not the right question, but every situation is different.
It ranges. So it's like some people will just be, what are your interest rates? And I always say, I'm like, well, how much does a house cost? There are so many moving parts in how we will price something. But as of today, depending on the mortgage itself, you're looking at on a fixed rate between 4.5 to high 5.
And what's your suggestion for people buying right now as far as terms go, right? You say date the rate, marry the home.
Yeah.
If rates are higher right now, are you saying maybe get into a shorter term?
We've been doing a lot of 3-year terms, and I think that's just long enough for people that they're comfortable, but it's short enough that if what the economists are saying is that we'll start to see the rate settle by the end of 2024, then maybe by then when they come up for renewal, but we're going in blind. Like we don't know for sure. The 3 and the 5 year, the variable product has not been very popular right now, and I think people understand why. It's just way too expensive. Even with the volatility of it, I don't think it makes sense for anybody right now unless you have a specific need to be in a variable product. But the 3 and the 5 year, it used to only be 5 years we would give out to people. It was the most popular product, but I would say it's pretty even between a 3 and a 5 year term right now.
Something that's kind of come and gone over the last few years is when the market's slow, everybody's putting finance conditions in. They have that 5-day window to send you the APS. You have for you to review it, send it to the underwriter, get the approval. Now, looking at the end of last year to this year, we're now back in that 2021 market. I guess what's the comfortability as a lender when you see people removing conditions? That'd be the first question, because the most common way to do it, like I said before, is send it to you. You do your due diligence, you do your work, you give them the green light. From a lending institution side, when you guys are seeing everybody removing financing because they don't have a choice to remain competitive, do you guys hate that? Do you love it?
Do you hate real estate agents?
If you think about it, right, you look back and everybody's always concerned about the appraisal value, because that's the biggest thing that once you remove it or you don't remove it, if you have your financing condition, most lenders I know who are good at their job will order that appraisal right away, because you have 5 days to get the approval, get the appraisal in, make sure that they didn't overpay, and then make sure that they're actually going to get lending. So when you're seeing people remove these conditions because they don't have a choice because there's 15 offers, what does that look like on your end? Like, are you guys going, okay, we got to really hammer down here? Or are you guys going, well, let's hope it closes? You know what I mean?
It's chaotic on the back end, and it's stressful because we do understand that people sometimes have to go in firm to be competitive. We totally get that. We respect what you guys do, because I know that you guys are working really hard with these people people. We also know if you have a shot in the dark, you're gonna have to go in firm. I hate it, but I also have faith in like myself and how we do our pre-approvals. We do the full credit check. We take all employment confirmation, sometimes go as far as even calling the employer and doing a verbal check as well. And we confirm down payment. But people have to understand that at the end of the day, a pre-approval is just my opinion. That doesn't get underwritten by, say, CMHC. It doesn't get underwritten by most particular lenders. It's my opinion when I'm taking a look at the file. I'm like, okay, this checks all the boxes. Every credit check is where it needs to be. The ratios are where they need to be. Down payment's good, all of that stuff. I do tell my clients, this is just my opinion. I can't tell you to go in firm. And I always say that. I can't tell you to go in firm. It's up to you. And I think it's just educating them. It's saying, okay, but listen, this is what could happen. The appraisal could come in short. But again, I also always have a conversation with my realtor and say, okay, we're going to have to order an appraisal. Make sure that you've got the comparables so that if we have to go back, that we won't have any issues. They do get ordered right away. So that part's usually been pretty good because we kind of prep ahead of time. Okay, if we're going to go in firm, we've got the comparables. We know that everything is going to come in fine with the value. And again, the appraisals get ordered like right away. In terms of people not closing, knock on wood, I've never in my whole career not had somebody close. I don't want to jinx myself. I don't want to jinx myself at all.
I don't think this is real wood, but we'll knock on it anyway.
But it happens. Sometimes it's just due to people not disclosing a lot to their broker, because sometimes people will try to hide stuff from us, right? Because they get nervous or they think that we're not going to find out. Stuff does happen, not saying that it doesn't. And then talking to the clients about a plan B. I prefer, especially like if everything's to the wire, like they only have 5% down, ratios are maxed out, we're kind of at the brim of everything, then I usually say, do we have a backup plan? Do you have parents? Do you have like a co-signer or somebody that could gift you if we come in short? Again, just having the conversation with them. So I have a love-hate because I know that's what you guys got to do, but on our side, it's pretty chaotic because it's a lot of pressure.
I mean, as an agent too, like when that's kind of part of our business too, is making sure that you have done the pre-approval. We know what you're putting down as a down payment. We know all the stuff behind the scenes. But I know as an agent, when you're having these conversations with clients saying like, look, if you want to even have a small chance, we have to go in completely firm. As a buyer, as a consumer, for sure, that's not easy to do because everybody's always been told, make sure you protect yourself as much as you can. And that's what me and Paul preach to everybody is we're here to protect you and make sure that what you're buying is a good buy and that you're going to get rewarded down the road, but you're at the mercy of the market, unfortunately. And we're right now in the market we're in, we're at the mercy of inventory. Until we start seeing more inventory roll out, he's had multiple offers on all of his listings. I've had multiple offers on all mine. If you get 10 offers, you're seeing 8 of them are firm. The problem that we've seen is we went from last year's market where everything was slow, everything was sitting on for 2, 3, 4 weeks, everything was conditional, to now, then the appraisals were fine, or some actually even near the end of last year, appraisals were coming in short. And now it's almost as if you don't even have to worry about the appraisal. I mean, you do, but agents aren't really thinking about that way. You're kind of going, the only way to get this is to go in firm. And if you don't go in firm, you don't even have a chance. Even if you have the best price by 20 grand, I've had sellers take less money because the other offer was firm, because it's more of a guarantee in a sense, but it's not technically, because it still could not close on closing. That's one of the struggles that me and Paul talk about quite frequently is we go in firm and you're still sitting there going, man, I don't even know if this is going to close. And everything that they've told you is great and it all checks off all the boxes, but it's still that little thing lingering on the back of your head going,
make me nervous.
Right?
I wanted to say something too. I mean, as a realtor and working with buyers and sellers, I think buyers in real estate have this perception like the real estate agent just writes up an offer and pushes it in. We spend a lot of time, similar to you, building relationships and letting them know that it's not just about submitting an offer. It's building a relationship with the other agent on the other end. It's building a client profile. It's getting you comparables, negotiating you the best deal. As far as the mortgage side of things, I would say it's very similar. It's not every mortgage broker or mortgage agent is the same. So what would you say sets you apart from somebody just calling the bank or saying, oh, this is my mom's mortgage agent, I'm told to use her? What gives you the upper hand or a little bit more competitive edge in these markets?
I would say one, just the systems that we have set up. The pre-approvals are coming in and we have our checklist to make sure that everything is done. Again, all the due diligence is done up front. I think just years of experience is something that between myself and my sister sets us apart. I've probably single-handedly funded over $500 million me and just myself on my own. And you learn a lot in that time. It's years in the business, it's the amount of transactions, it's relationships with lenders. Even in the short period of time we've been on the broker side, we've developed really great relationships with a lot of lenders because of the volume that we send in. If something is debatable, we can have that conversation because we do have that relationship with them, and we can talk through our files versus just getting someone who's underwriting our files on the lender side that doesn't know us, doesn't know our style, and could just say yes or no. At least we're given the opportunity because of the way that we structure our files and our relationships to be able to have conversations when needed. I think the other thing is just industry reputation, because we have been doing it for a long time. People do know who we are, whether it's just a repeat of clients, investors in the area, and even realtors. Sometimes, and this just happened last week, where my name was on the pre-approval. The listing agent saw that I was the one who had issued the pre-approval and flat out said one of the big reasons why we feel comfortable is because I know like this is solid.
Nice.
So I think it's a combo of things, but I would definitely say years and reputation is probably what sets us apart. And I think the other thing too is no matter how much volume that we're doing, if somebody refers a client to me, I'm the only one that talks to them, so they don't get passed on to somebody else on our team.
And like, thank you for your call. Press one.
Right? Like they still get that one-on-one personal touch from myself, and I think that I'm the one that's still doing their file, and they're not talking to 10 different people. I think people really appreciate that as well.
I would agree with that. What would you say if you're a buyer, first-time home buyer, whatever, investor, what would be the biggest don't do this advice you'd give to somebody if they're looking at purchasing real estate and during that pre-approval process or before they even close on the home? What are you telling people not to do? Because I know there's a lot of things you're not supposed to do.
I know.
What would you say when you're having these conversations of buying real estate? What are you saying? Make sure to anybody, like, please do not do this.
Simply put, don't change your financial situation, but you have to go into detail. Don't quit your job. Don't spend your down payment. Don't buy a car. Don't rack up debt. Don't stop paying off your existing debt and ruin your credit, because even though a file gets approved, the lender has every right to go back before closing to check to make sure that everything's still the same. You have to do whatever you can not to change your financial situation, because it's happened. I've had people that are like, oh, I quit my job. I got a new job. You have to scramble. People that really just thought, okay, she's done the credit check and now I can kind of just worry about saving a bit more, not worry about paying off my credit card. Don't mess around. Like, just
stay.
Close on the house.
Stay committed. If you're going to go buy a boat, wait till you're
buy it the next day. Like, just don't do it.
Or go buy Sea-Doos.
So, just don't do it ahead of time.
That makes sense. It's interesting, right? Because when we talk to clients, they're hearing different ideas and questions to ask. You know, my mom and dad told me to do this, teacher told me to do that, right? So that's kind of the one thing that me and Paul are always talking to people about. Like, I had somebody last year, I remember, they're getting pre-approved and they got approved, and then he showed up to a showing while we were shopping in a brand new truck. And I was like, oh, sweet. Is that you just driving your parents' truck today? And he's just, no, I just got this yesterday. I go, pardon me?
Your heart sick?
Yeah. I was like, wait a minute. So your pre-approval, though, like, did you let them know? And he goes, nope. I go, okay, well, we're no longer shopping for this price point anymore, right? Because
don't even look at it.
Yeah. Can we go in? No. A lot of people don't think about the big picture, what actually can go wrong. And if you want to go buy something new, that's fine. But if you're looking to buy real estate, your main and sole focus should be like, get that property in. And then after the fact, if you have money kicking around and you have money to burn, go right ahead, go buy whatever you want. But you're putting yourself in a spot where A, you might not be able to close, but B, you might find yourself in a legal dispute, because if it comes time to close and you don't close because you bought a truck or you bought a boat or you bought something that's a depreciating asset, everyone's going to find out about that.
Yeah,
right?
They'll find out, because it's a big monthly obligation that wasn't put into your calculations.
On that point, what tips would you give for people saving for their first home to do to prepare for a good pre-approval?
This is my favorite tip to give people that are saving for their down payment. I'm like, pretend you already own the house. Pretend you have your property tax bill and your mortgage payment and all of that, and make sure that you can sustain saving that every single month. If you're paying rent, minus that off your total household cost. But it's a good way to experiment to see how your lifestyle will change, but also obviously a good way to save. For people who are really just kind of starting out and looking to see if they can get pre-approved, get the pre-approval or just talk to someone like me as early in the process as possible, so you can just set out a plan. Whether it's like you have to get a secondary job job, or it's you have to clean up a little bit of credit or pay some stuff off or save a little bit more, be very well aware of your finances and have those conversations with somebody like myself. Just be more knowledgeable about your own financial situation, be more aware. It's surprising how many people don't know how much they make a year. But it's just be aware and be in touch with your finances and just have a good grasp on it, because that's the only way you'll be able to goal set properly.
Yeah. So what's it like? I mean, I grew up in a family business, worked with my sister as well for quite some time. What's it like working with your sister? Did she have her own thing going before, or was she at a bank as well? So were you both at the same bank?
So she was at TD, then went to CIBC, and then I was at Royal, and then I went to CIBC.
Yeah.
So we weren't working together, but we were on just like the same team in the Durham region at the same time. And then we both left the bank within a couple of weeks of each other. When you leave the bank, it's got to be swift. There's no like giving your 2 weeks notice or anything like that. You're
just walk out the door.
I'm done.
See ya.
Yeah, see ya, right?
Your
Like,
box.
yeah, pretty much, right? It was pretty immediate. I think I had just left a few days before her, and then when I left, I think they kind of knew she was probably leaving too, so she had to leave pretty quickly as well. But working with each other, it's been nice because we are responsible for our own files and we're responsible for our own referral sources. So our business day to day is fairly separate, which is nice because then we don't have to be in each other's faces all the time, and we work out of separate offices. But then it's fun when we do get to come together and do events or just be out like in the market together, and being able to market together has been really well. So I would say it's a pretty good combo because we don't have to spend every day together, but we get to spend a little bit of time with each other. I've learned so much from her. Definitely, I'm really lucky to have her, and we haven't killed each other yet.
That's good. That's a plus.
That's a plus, right?
Anything else, Paul, that you can think of?
No, I think, the big thing here was to be as informative as possible to people listening that are maybe thinking of buying or selling, and learn a little bit about how important the mortgage side of things are.
If you want to drop your handle or your phone number or anything like that, and people can reach out if you're thinking about getting pre-approved, or Diana just kind of partnered up with Rebel the last, was it like a month ago?
Yeah, I think.
If anybody wants to get a pre-approval, feel free to reach out, and she's the best in the biz.
Actually, I just had a client I referred to her, and they're like, she's the best. They actually said that she's the best.
Thank you.
We went in firm.
Yeah, we did. We did.
She called me and said, what the hell are you doing? We just talked about this.
Everything worked out well, and they're super happy with your service, so I'm more than happy to
No, I
continue to
appreciate
refer
that. And it means a lot to me. And I think we were talking about just how heavy like we are on referrals. It's been very flattering because people are putting so much trust in us. And I think that's why like we work so hard not to let anybody down, because our reputation is everything. I want it to supersede us. I want everybody to know that if we say that we're going to do something, we're going to do whatever we can to kind of stick to our word, because if I'm not as good as my word, then I'm no good.
You've obviously built quite a reputation being in it for over 17 years and now doing your own thing. It's not about what you say, it's what you do as well.
Yeah,
right?
definitely. I don't think like, especially with Durham being as small knit as it is and so many of us knowing each other, I wouldn't have gotten away with not doing good service for this long in Durham. People probably would have called me out by now, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, if anybody ever needs anything or has any questions about just how to even get started in the process, please give me a call, 905-429-8016, and that's my personal cell.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Cool.
Thanks for having me out, guys.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. Appreciate it.
It's been fun.
Thanks very much. I'll see you at the next episode.